welcome everyone to the episode number 34. Today I got another one of my very good friends, CJ Brady. He runs a lawn care company down in Fort Worth, Texas. It's called First Cut Lawn Service. CJ is a beast in the industry. He doesn't put himself out there very much. I think the last time we were together, though, we were cruising down the river, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
That's right. We had a long conversations, that weekend, and we spent a lot of time together. Again, welcome to the show. I appreciate you spending time with us, and can't wait to get started. CJ has a really, really cool story, and he's here to tell it. So welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Jonas, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to come on, and you tell me, where do you want to start?
Well, let's just kind of tell us how you got into the industry. In fact, before that, even just tell us what you were in a different industry before.
Yep.
You went through that company. You've already been through it and exit. You can tell us about that. Tell us let's start out with this. So if CJ and I were juniors in high school, who would CJ be in high school? I'm just intrigued. Like what did you do? Like, were you an athlete? Were you a 4.0 student? Like, I like to know these things.
Neither one of those. But I was a fun guy to be around. But yeah, I was a partier. I would say I was in the party crowd, and a lot. Yeah. That's probably. I definitely. I was always a hustler. Like, I always wanted to make money. I was always a hard worker. But my free time was definitely all party.
Did you work through high school?
Yeah. Starting as soon as they would let me, I think I sold. I did everything from working at pizza shops to selling women's shoes, and I started bagging groceries. Actually, I did mow lawns. Start at like 12 years old. I had a little route that my dad would go and drop me off at, and then that was only like a year stint. But and then as soon as I was legally able to work, I think I started my first real job was grocery store, bagging groceries, stuff like that. But
was there any people early on that you we kind of talked about earlier, but any people that you met early on that you think a lot about to this day that really influenced you at a young age?
Yeah, I would say so. Probably when I was 18 or 19, I started working for a company, an HVAC company, and I started as a lead setter inside Home Depots, where you're setting leads for their sales guys. And the guy that owned that company, that was a huge turning point for me, because I really got to see what you could make in sales and things like that. So I kept bugging them about wanting to be have my own truck and have a sales route. And they're like, well, go get certified and we'll do it. And I called their bluff and I did it, because they had never had a kid that young. So, and then I got in with these guys, and I mean, this is back in probably 2000, these guys were selling air conditioners, making $150,000+ a year. And my eyes were open at that point, because at that point I thought, just go get a business degree and, make the national average 50,000 is, I'm doing good. And then, but everything changed, and I saw that, and I, was able to, be around guys like that. So I would say that was kind of what really kicked it into gear, that there was a lot more to be had than what I'd been fed.
Yeah. So were you knocking doors selling air conditioning units, or were you just there setting leads and you were following the leads up?
Following the leads. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So they had a call center going, and then the call center would set us up leads. So.
That's really cool. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Cause like I said, my brain works at like, where did they start to where they are now? So it gives me a lot of insight of, who you were. So you said the turning point was there. And then when did you start, getting business savvy, and what was your first business? How did you get into the business that you first got in? Tell us that story.
Yeah. So, I hopped around a couple of different sales jobs. I finally landed in the medical industry. The medical sales, this is like we're marketing to doctors and hospitals. So this is territory sales, very different than what we do now. You're developing a territory, you're developing relationships, and that's how I met my wife. And my wife had her own. So we marketed home health care. My wife had her own company going. I had been with a big corporate company, and for about 3 years at that time, I think I was 25. And obviously, once we got more serious, we decided to join forces. And so I went over there. We grew that company up. So I'm going to condense this so that it doesn't take up the whole hour. But we grew that company up. We decided to sell it, and then we're married by this point. But by the time we sell it, and then it just, everything happens for a reason. But the guy we sold it to ended up being a really bad dude, with a huge amount of money behind him, and he decided he didn't want to, pay us we had structured an agreement we'd be paid out type of thing, and anyways, he drug us through the courts. It was a nightmare. It lasted years. There's even some stuff still going on to this day, but we ended up spending everything we made on that company just to fight him. And he made it a personal mission just to, pretty much beat us into the ground. So that was a hard pill to swallow. And so we're both sitting there with 5-year non-competes, can't go back into the medical field, and out of money. And then, and then guy who mows my yard, tells me he's going out of the business. And, I'm like, this guy's name was Billy. He was just driving around, collecting checks under the doormat type of guy, he's like 40 yards. And I was like, how hard can it be? Naively, I was like, this, I think everybody looks at the, some of these service businesses and they think, that they're not complicated. And I soon found out that wasn't the case. I thought I could hire some college kids, just have a couple of trucks running around with passive income. And before I know it, I'm out there pushing the mower, and that's how I got into it.
Cool. Rewind a little bit. How big was the medical company when you sold it?
By the time we sold it, it was over $10 million a year in revenue.
Unreal. And then what was the decision?
And I have to give that credit to my wife, because my wife had that thing running like, yep. Misty is a rock star, and she, when I came over there to partner with her, I was really good at the sales, not to be, I'm not trying to brag, but that was my niche. I was really good at territory sales, to build the relationships. But when I went over there, because I don't want to make it sound like I went over there to, she had already had that thing at $5 million by the time I got over there.
Gotcha.
And then I was able to just kind of pour gas on the fire, and I took over the marketing department. And but if anybody that's growing a business knows, the hard part was already done. The base was there. So, but that was my role in that. And then, so it was even harder for her, to see,
it's tough.
her baby, and it doesn't take the accomplishment away. We just did a deal with a bad guy, but we were both, and we're still in the midst of the lawsuit, even out of money, we're still getting dragged through the mud.
And how many years has this been since you sold?
It's been 10 years. It was 2013.
Unreal.
That we sold.
Unreal. What was the decision back then to sell? And then the next question, would you have sold again? Obviously not to that guy, but would you have done it again? Or would you have kept it?
No to both of those. So the decision to sell was just, we wanted to start a family, ironically, so that we would have more time. Because the business at that point was just taking everything we had.
Yep.
Even at that size, you think, okay, well, it's that big, it should be running on autopilot. It wasn't. It was a constant. We just took everything we had. So that was the thought process of, getting out. And then there are some changes coming down the pipe too on the way Medicare was paying, but really that was the main driver.
Okay.
And then, like I said ironically, because we ended up being even more consumed by the legal stuff after that. And then, so hindsight, if I would have known what I've known now, we were so close to being able to accomplish both things without selling it.
Yeah.
By just getting
the right people.
Some more, the right people, exactly right. The right guy to come in and run it, or girl to come in and run it, to take that day to day off of us would have been at that size would have been easily affordable, and we could have had best of both worlds. And but I didn't know that at the time. So
when did you know something was going off? Like something just wasn't right?
During the deal,
during the exit. Yeah. Like, was there like, obviously you didn't get paid, but do you think there was red flags, looking back at it now?
So the particular person, without naming names, that we did this with, he's been in, we find out later, he was a kind of a silent behind the scenes guy at first. And then they had some other people represent. So no, we didn't know, man.
Gotcha.
This guy, he strategically launched a lawsuit before the payment was due to freeze the payment. And this is somebody that knows, he's been in 100 lawsuits since the 80s. So out of our league, like, this is his game. Yeah. This is what he does. He makes deals with people and negotiates in the courts. And later on, we had one of his ex-wives testify on the stand that, like, he never plans on paying people, and he bullies them until they quit, and then, because the courts are set up to where you can do that. Really, if you have a lot of money, you can just, keep submitting and, drawing things out, and so we were naive to that. We never saw that side of ugly business before. So it really caught us by surprise. We really did. The first year was great. We were like, we were able to do a lot of traveling and things were good. And then it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Gotcha. So it was a year later when you started to figure it out. So the first year was really good. You're like, man, this is awesome. Then it happened the second year.
Yeah. So big portion of the sale price was to be paid out on year 2. And that's when they filed.
So, but you guys didn't back down. You guys met him at litigation over the first, couple of years, and 10 years later, you're still at it.
Several years. Yeah. Several years.
Have you got paid out on some, or not really yet?
No. And we had to sell all of our properties off. I had to liquidate my retirement account. Everything. We literally were signing it over to attorneys to just finish the,
right.
The bout. So, but yeah, there's some other things I can't talk about going on right now where it's just crazy. 10 years later, we're still dealing with
it.
Wild.
But, is that company still in business?
Yeah.
Are they big?
That's what kind of salt in the wound, they're pressing us with the money that company's making, so, it is what it is, but
have they grown it since then?
I think they did for, I think, a couple of years. And that was another thing that was like, we did everything we could to, and I don't want to go too much into it, but, just to be, to do, to help support it. I stayed on for, several months. I even helped recruit some really good reps to develop some new territories, which took off after, I left. And we did everything we could to make sure that, the revenue didn't even, dip at all during a transition, which is very unheard of, once, owners leave. But so there, it was a very tough learning experience. And
that's exactly what I was just going to say. Like, man, I bet you learned a ton though.
I did, learned a ton, and looking back now, I know it's kind of cliche, but it broke us down to a point where we had to, really rebuild a foundation, not just for ourselves financially, but for our marriage. So a little bit about me, like I told you before, when you asked me who I was when I was in
Mm.
11th grade as a partier, well, that accelerated throughout life. And so I was always a pretty heavy pill user and alcohol. And I was very highly functional. You know, to me, it was always about, and I bring this up because I like to share it, and I share with my guys that work for me because I think there's so many guys that struggle with this. To me, it was like, if you're making money, nothing else matters, right? If you're making money, it justifies, you know, your habits. But I'll tell you, that lawsuit stuff, that's when like I'd say the boot got put on my neck, and that
Started to
that stuff
spiral
that
out
I
of
was able,
control.
yeah, the stuff that I was able to manage for all those years, you know, really came to the surface in a way that I couldn't tame it anymore, and I finally had to, uh, you know, humble myself and get help with it, and um, so so there was that. And then there's going through the lawsuit, and I went through all of that, and then the starting the lawn business was probably 2 months after I got sober. I started the lawn
Congratulations.
business just randomly,
Mm.
and which probably saved me, honestly.
Yeah.
That it was. I look back now and I'm like, what a gift that was. Even though it was miserable at the time, you know, I'm you know, sober. If you've ever gone through that after that many years of abuse, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself at times. Um, but that kept me really busy and kept me, you know, something to focus on. And 2 months later, I find out my wife's pregnant. So we have no money, you know, and I'm trying to stay sober, and I'm starting this new business. So everything is just very challenging at that point. And but without it, like I said, today we're in a great spot. Our marriage is much stronger. Um, you know, and like I said, you just learn from that stuff and carry on.
What year did you start the lawn care company then?
2016.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
being super vulnerable because everyone thinks that business, they see it from the outside, right? But they don't realize how much stress there is on us all the time. Like it never stops.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting better spots now. We all go through that shit, right? We just do. You know, it's like one of those things like, yeah, we didn't get paid for the first 5 years. We can get paid for the first 10 years. You hear all the time. Like it's so hard. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and telling your story. And we talked about yesterday, like, do we talk about it? Like, absolutely. Because people need to
Yeah.
learn that, you know, if you're going through this, a lot of us have been there. If you ever need help with anything, like I said, reach out. We've gone through it. It's not easy. So I appreciate
Yep.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you started
Absolutely.
the lawn care company and you're out there mowing lawns, and then walk us through that, how, you know, how you started it until almost where you're at today. Tell us you know, we talked about your rebranding. We could dive deep into that, and then let's talk about a little culture too.
Yeah. So 2016 was our first season. So I got those 40 yards from that guy,
Oh, you
and
bought them from that guy?
yeah, that was a mistake. So if anybody's listening, don't ever buy, don't ever buy, don't ever buy. Well, don't ever buy like mowing accounts. I'll just put it that way. But
Well,
that's how I
I'm
got
assuming
into
that
it.
they're underpriced.
Yeah, we lost them all. So,
You know
but I
what?
will say that's what got me into it.
Yeah.
So, and then in my situation, maybe it wasn't a bad move, but it's not. You're not going to get a good return on that usually. But so I bought his equipment, and then I told him on the rest, you know, I'll pay you out over the next, you know, 12 months. You know, it wasn't much. It was like 10 grand or something like that. So and he still wanted to work. He just was done, you know, dealing with it. Um, and so we started off, and I didn't know what to do. I was just doing, because like I said before, I had a lot of sales experience, and we used to call it marketing in the healthcare industry. We used to say, you know, everybody was marketers. They're really sales,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's territory sales. So this whole new thing of being online, and that was all brand new to me. Um, so you know, my eyes were opened, and so for about 10 months, I was just trying everything I could to, make money. I think the first year we did like 125,000. And we advertised just mainly through door hangers and old school ways. And then
was Misty pregnant at this time?
Yes. Yep.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Matter of fact, so my daughter's born July 26th, 2016. And so right in the middle of the season, we got the newborn, and this is where we're running out of my garage. So it's kind of funny looking back now. We had the, newborn in the house, up all night, and then out to the garage in the morning to sharpen blades.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had one guy helping me at that time, and so sometimes he'd be out there. I'd hear him out there grinding away, and so that's how it started, and so to kind of give you a fast track, one thing I could say, and I think you would agree with this, is joining a peer group was the game changer for me.
I just wrote this down. I just wrote that down. My next question.
Yeah. And so coming into this industry, another thing that I thought was a disadvantage at the time, but looking back was an advantage, was I knew nothing about lawn care. Like I told you, I mowed a few yards early on, like when I was 12, but I knew nothing about the business of it, how to do it commercially. Like I literally didn't know how to weed eat a yard. Or put an edge down, or much less anything with chemicals. So at that time, I felt like that was a disadvantage. But because I didn't know anything, I was open to anything. So that's where it became my advantage. And I found a peer group, and it was the Service Autopilot Academy and Jonathan Potoshnik, and it was lucky that I landed. So when you're that open, you can also land on bad information. Well, I think I picked the perfect one the first try, and getting on a CRM, with Service Autopilot, and then just starting to listen to the videos and getting around the guys in that group. It was just, as they say, the aha moment. And I was like, this is how they're making money. I get it. And I have so much to learn. And then from there, things took off, so we'll do over $4 million this year. And but I would say that was that was definitely, if I didn't get that peer group and I didn't get involved, listening to Jonathan's stuff and talking to all the other guys, all the other guys in the group, it's just such a I hate using the word shortcut, but it's just smart, but it's such a
cheat code.
I can't. Yeah,
it really
exactly.
is.
Sorry.
It really is a cheat code.
I probably would have just sold it off at a lower price and just moved on and said, that business sucks. Don't ever go into that. I probably would have been one of those guys, because I can't imagine trying to do it, trying to like do it. I don't know what. Yeah, I can't see myself even still being in the service business if I didn't join that group. So huge deal.
We've I think there has been only a couple episodes where we haven't talked about Jonathan. And again, like, it's pure luck. Like, how did because I say we, because I was involved, like, how did I get so lucky to have him as my first mentor ever? Like, the stars aligned that day. That's how I feel. Like, and he created some killers, and he's proven it over and over and over again. And obviously he doesn't do it anymore. He's out of the game, but man, he created some killers in that group, and it's pretty incredible to see. So yeah, hats off to Jonathan. He'll be on here someday. I'm going to save him for one of the bigger episodes, though. Maybe episode 50. They're coming close, or 100. But
yeah, that would be cool.
I talked to him, and he's going to be on here, and I think everyone agreed, like, without him, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So it's always good to find a really good mentor, even a peer group, like I said, just to be with like-minded people to bounce ideas off of. And a lot of the value came from that. I mean, a ton of the value came from that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can jump on a call. Jump on a call and You're going through a problem, you find someone in the group that's bigger than you, like, hey, how do you solve this problem? And it's instantly solved in a phone call. Like, oh, cool. You go implement that and you just keep rolling. It's
Yeah,
again
and
a
I
cheat code.
remember I remember bugging Brandon Peterman like before I even knew him, and I knew he was successful in fertilization and weed control, and I wanted to jump into that, and I knew nothing about it. I just kept bugging him, and he finally said, "You just come see me." I was like, "Tomorrow."
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
be up. I
There's your
just
quick
drove. I mean,
start.
I'm only 3.5 hours from him. I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. And just that one trip going to see him, and Brandon's very open with,
Yep.
sharing how he does stuff, and, he just laid it out for me. This is how we do it. This is what I do. Gave me some, his, things that he did. And it was just like, man, I went home and like that division, there's no way I would have blown up as fast as I did in that division if it wasn't for just that one trip I took down to Oklahoma. That said, just little decisions, man. Little decisions turn into huge wins. Sometimes it's just taking action.
Yeah, Brandon is one of my best friends. I talk to Brandon just about every day, but now he's gonna have 1,000 people calling him tomorrow or next Tuesday, I should say. He's gonna have a line out the door.
I'm happy to be the one that caused that.
Me too.
That annoyance
Thank
for
you.
him.
He deserves it. So the business is doing 4 million a year, and all of a sudden you just like want to change the name out of the blue. So let's shift gears a little bit because we're already half hour in, and I really want to dive deep on a lot of this part, which is the culture part and then rebranding, because we haven't talked about that a whole lot on the podcast. So I really want to dive into that for the next half hour. So kind of walk us through the process of why you wanted to rebrand, and then the whole culture side of it. I know it's a
okay.
longer
Well,
talk, but
yeah, no. So we, the direction that we're going to take the company is just to be more of a holistic outdoor maintenance solution. And then our name, is obviously, it's got the word cut in it. I never really liked it, but it's more geared toward mowing. And we do mosquito control, pest control, landscape maintenance, obviously mowing. And we'll be going into pool service next. And so pretty much that takes care of pretty much everything you need outside your house, and the pest control part's outdoor pest control only. So that's kind of our niche, is just anything you need outdoor maintenance. So
like home services.
Yeah. And so it was actually Jonathan I was talking to about the name, and I was going to do Buffalo Home Services, and then he was, what about Buffalo Outdoor? And I was like, yeah, of course that sounds better, So I was like, we'll go with that, and that's what we did, And so we're in the process of getting our first trucks wrapped right now. But the main reason, the reason to change, and I don't think it's always a good idea,
right,
to change your brand, because a lot of you'll hear you care more about the name of your company than your customers do.
Yeah, no one
They
cares.
don't.
Yep.
Yeah, and but for us, it was a lot of it was internal, and we felt like 10-year picture down the road that this branding, it wasn't because we think we're going to make more money next year. We may make less next year because of it. Even though we're still going to, do everything the right way as far as converting the website and all that stuff, but you're still going to lose a little bit because you've got this brand that's been out there for so long. It's not going to happen overnight, but we think the 10-year picture, this is going to more accurately represent us, and whether or not we want to franchise later on, whether or not we want to go into other cities later on, we feel like that is going to be a better platform to do that. So, and with that comes the culture shift. We have our company values, and what our number one if you're wondering why Buffalo. So Buffalo, our number one company value is be the Buffalo, run through the storm. And there's been books written about this, and there's a guy that does a really good job online speaking on this. And the short version is, when the storms come over the horizon, they observed the cattle and the buffalo acting very differently from one another. The cattle instinctively, they run from the storm to try to avoid it, and then the storm eventually catches them, and now they're actually running with the storm. Yeah, and so they're in the storm for much longer. Versus the buffalo, instinctively they'll charge through it. They'll hit it head on because they know that they'll be in the storm, in the pain, for much less time. So it's a great metaphor for life. And
That's fire.
Yeah, and so I literally was talking about the core value, and one of the girls who works for me was going to get it. She was going through some really hard personal stuff, and she's like, I think she may have a quick start too, because she was about to go get it tattooed on her leg, a buffalo tattooed. And I was like, man, we've got something here, and I shared it with a couple other people. A group that I'm in, I shared it with them, and people are just so receptive. Like, it's awesome, and I was like, not necessarily that we would lead with that as a, marketing tagline. But we probably would share with our customers as they became our customers. They like that kind of stuff. But the buffalo also is just a really easy thing to brand and a cool mascot. So Buffalo Outdoors, where we went with that, and then one of the big things with the culture shift is, we see the impact that kind of stuff has on our people, and our core focus is, we want to grow ourselves, grow our company, grow together, and like we were talking about earlier, who early on had an impact on you. And so we were thinking, so there's a guy, and a guy named Dan Ralphs, and he spoke at one of the conferences that I was recently at, and he told a story about, really struck home with me. Basically told a story about his dad. His dad's relationship, I don't want to misquote him, but it wasn't, his dad was kind of a shut off, not shut off from him, but, they had a weird relationship. I'll say that. So he had a hard time understanding his dad. And then after his dad passed, he was going through his dad's stuff, and he found an evaluation from the company that his dad worked for. And you could see the tears coming up in his eyes as he's telling the story. And he was like, man, they just ripped him. They just ripped him. It was nothing but just, basically, you suck because of this. You suck because of this. He's like, no wonder my dad was quiet all the time. No one, because this back then when people would work somewhere 40 years, they didn't jump around. It's not like today. And so it was a huge, huge eye opener for me of the impact that we have on the people that work for us, and a responsibility we have to be a good influence on them. Whether they work for us for a summer, whether they work for us and they decide to move up into management and make a career out of it. Like I was telling you earlier, I have a couple of guys that always pop into my head that even now to this day, when I'm about to do something lazy, I'm like, what would Greg do? What would Juan think of that? These are guys that I worked for when I was like 18, and they still pop in the back of my head. And some of the guys that come and work for us, they don't even have anybody in their lives to teach them values, or they're setting their own standard or anything. So I was like, we've got to take this more seriously, and really let our managers know, you guys, beyond money. I think somebody asked me that question. They're like, beyond money, what's the reason for running your company? And I really had to think about that. I said, the question, the follow-up question to that was, when your grandchild is sitting on your lap and they ask you, what'd you do? What would you want to be able to tell them? Either I made a lot of money, and he's like, well, where's grandma? They're going to be bored with that. So it's really made you kind of think, what do we want to do besides, make money? Obviously, we want to make money. It's a business. But to me, that's what I wanted. I wanted it, whether it's for, like I said, they're only with us a couple of months, to be able to leave learning, or maybe just a concept that's introduced to them that is completely new to them, about a self-standard work ethic, a way of looking at things, or who knows? You just never know. You never know how you're going to impact somebody. So the whole culture change is a very long-winded answer, so I'm sorry about that. But
No, that's awesome. You should see all the notes that I'm writing down.
Okay, yeah, the whole culture thing, and the rebrand goes together. It's it was really cool to hear that story from him. I'm really glad I did, and then I've been able to have some more conversations with him, and he's a very, very good mentor when it comes to the culture stuff, and
yeah, you said a few things. One, you brought up your core focus, and you ripped off 3 things at the top of your head just instantly, like you've said it a million times. So that shows me that you're a true believer in your core focus, because you said it a million times, or right off the rip, you could just say it without thinking about it. So that's pretty cool that you guys have figured that out. And then you said, person asks you why, right? Like why you're doing this, and there's that book that start with why. Figuring out why you want to do this. Like, it isn't about the money at this point. I mean, yeah, we all need to survive. We all want to be successful, but it's more about helping other people's, creating an impact. And then you brought up another thing about, rebranding, how you said that most people, it's probably not a good idea to do, right? Because everyone already knows your brand. I get asked that question all the time. Should I rebrand? Should I rebrand? Should I rebrand? Because they saw me do it. I'm like, why? Like, you've been in business 10 years. Everyone already knows who you are. Like, no one, like you said, no one really cares. So right. I would say more often than not, don't do it. I did it kind of like the reason you did it. I was moving to a new market. I didn't like my logo. I had my name in, my last name for the name of the company. I just didn't want that when I started over. So kind of like you, I rebranded, go to new territory. The Badger was the state of Wisconsin. So I put that in the name, make it more relevant. So there's a lot to unpack there. So it was really cool. And then you brought up the tattoo, about the buffalo, right? She's going to get a tattoo. Yeah. So I have 3 guys that all went and got tattoos, not last year, but the year before. They all say no soliciting from when they're knocking, from when we went out knocking doors, right? You always come across signs that say no soliciting, but they're so bought into the culture, and they're so bought into our mission, right? That they all went together and got tattoos that said no soliciting on their leg. So what you guys are doing is super awesome.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
They actually got those.
Yeah, they actually got them all in the right leg together. Three guys did. What color are you guys going with when you guys are rebranding? Are you changing colors? So you were yellow, right?
No, we were green. We had typical landscape colors, green. Like all of our trucks are wrapped head to toe like a grass pattern and stuff. So it's going to be completely different, red and blue. We're still going with the theme of, stand out. And
was there a reason you chose those colors?
To be honest, no. I just wanted colors that would stand out. Because I even tell the designer, I said, I'd rather tacky and stand out than classy and nobody notices it. But she's like, well, I think I can get you both. But I just knew that they would be bright, and it was I went through probably 4 different designers, and then I did Design Crowd. I did, a bunch of different things before I landed on what ended up being a very simple logo, but and then the colors that we landed on. So,
when are you going to launch the Buffalo brand?
We've already done it internally.
Okay.
We've already got like core values and Buffalo Outdoor. All that stuff is internally already done.
I'm sure you have first couple. You already have your domain. I'm sure you brought that. But how far of the process are you externally? And what is your And what is your plan to push it out to the market? Like, is it gonna be one truck at a time? You can let people know in an email. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, both those. We're going to be. We've already got a couple trucks being wrapped right now.
Sweet.
And we'll be sending out an email to our current clients. We'll probably put both logos down at the bottom and just explain kind of the story I told you. Maybe not quite in that much detail, but just let them know more about that we're going into be, the, full service outdoor solution. And that's why we're going to be changing our name.
Do you plan on
And
embedding
then,
a video in there and kind of telling that story?
I didn't until you said that,
I think
but
it'd be
that's probably a
super
really good
cool.
idea.
And not everyone might not watch it, but I think that the people that do watch, it'll make a really big impact on your customer relationship with them.
Yeah, I'll take that advice for sure. And yeah, and then the fall is when we're going to do a hard flip, and then over the winter we'll wrap all the trucks when we actually can get them. It's not real feasible to do right now, and from the marketing standpoint, it's not the best timing to do that. But the fall will be when we do the website stuff and all of that.
And have you talked to your marketing company? They're on board with it, and they ready to? Are they going to launch a brand new website or just rebrand the website? What's their plan there?
No, it'll be so. So what they do is it's I forgot the technical term for it, but it'll be a brand new website, but it'll be the same website. If that makes sense. So it'll be a redirect. It'll be a permanent redirect. So, if a brand new website would have we would have lost all of our authority on Google, and so we're doing it where we won't. We're talking about Jonathan earlier. Jonathan was even nice enough to get on the call with me with Tony from Longline to make sure that it was going to be done in that way, the right way, so that we didn't lose any of that. Because that's a huge risk. When you start switching that stuff over, you've got that much
absolutely
authority built up.
So outside of like the rebranding, what do you guys do different that most companies don't do for like culture? Like what are you guys doing like to really hit home on that culture side of it? I know you have an example of today what you're doing because you can talk about that a little bit, but what else do you guys do?
Yeah, today we're a paintball party here in a couple hours, but well, we're really trying to, I think in the past we did the typical stuff, like Christmas parties and throw something in the middle of the year. I've taken everybody to the, Ranger Suite for baseball games and stuff like that. But I always felt like we did a poor job on, it's kind of, we write this stuff down and get shoved in a drawer. Nobody lives it. We don't hire by it. We don't fire by it. So, we run off of a system called EOS, which I know you know what that is. And so with this, and like I said, we've already kind of launched the new brand internally, and the employee and all of our managers they love it. They're 100% behind it. And so I'd say to answer your question, we don't, in the past, I don't think we've done anything real special. But going forward, we're using this rebrand and this relaunch as and we're totally changing the game on how serious we take it. It's going to be talked about in our interview process. It's going to be, this is who we are. Do you fit in here? If you don't, it's okay. But just telling you now, this is how we do things. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the David Ramsey talking about thoroughbreds and donkeys don't like working together. You ever heard that?
I've heard the analogy, maybe not quite that one, but yeah.
Yeah. He's like, because thoroughbreds don't like pulling the donkey's weight, and the donkeys don't like keeping up with thoroughbreds' pace. So if you allow both, he goes, eventually over time, you'll have one or the other in your company. You won't, they both can't coexist. So, for us, it's buffaloes and cows, right?
Gotcha.
So, it's
That's
already
awesome.
spreading. Like, all of our managers are like, I'm like, don't let them run off our buffaloes, man. Like if they're not going to convert, then, get rid of them, so that sounds bad. I shouldn't just say that. First,
I know
try to coach them up. Yeah. First, try to coach them up and see what maybe they just don't understand. Like I said, maybe they don't get it yet, but if they're not going to they're not going to get there. We're going to get dead serious about, we're going to create an environment for people to grow. So that's the thing. So if it's taken away from other people's growth, they just have to, we can't accept them to work in. And it really has been a tough couple of years to be tough on culture, because let's just face it, the employer has not had the leverage the last 3 years at all. And so you had to put up with a lot of stuff. Well, and maybe that's an excuse, but in my mind, I've had to put up with stuff that I didn't like putting up with, as far as, people not, being part of our culture, but we just trying to get the work done. Right. Like and I know probably everybody listening to this can relate to, feeling like you don't have options when it comes to the type of people that are working for you, the environment, because, the number one goal is make sure your customers are taken care of. And, it's been a real tough hiring environment. So, and like I said, it's not an excuse, but I just noticed that it's been a really weak spot for us. And going forward, we're going to have to really step up our game if we want to take it if we want to have a really good company and take it to the 10, 15 million mark, then, we have to have that culture be rock solid. So I know you asked me what I was doing, and that was kind of me dancing around that we haven't been doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's, another thing too is the meeting pulses, having consistent meetings with your team, letting them know where they're at, letting them know what they're doing good. And that's really important too.
Yeah. So how long have you been running EOS?
About a year and a half.
Cool. And then I had wrote down recruiting before, like just as you started talking about it, I wrote it down. What have you guys been doing to try to recruit people? Are you guys are you working with a company, recruiting company? Or are you doing like a bonus search for your guys? Or how are you getting people in?
So last year and the year before, even more than this year, but we do interviews every day. We do interviews, rain or shine, 8 to 10 every single day. So when somebody calls in, are you hiring? Yep. Come do interviews, and then every day there's interviews coming in, and it's mainly Facebook, Indeed,
Yeah.
And then if we have a trouble filling up the schedule, then we'll try something else. But
you guys are still getting people in the door?
Yeah.
Cool. And do you guys typically hire on the spot, or do you like wait to follow up with them the next day? How do you guys handle your process like that? Do you do like the 3-day trial?
So what we're starting, this is starting next week, because, one of the things that we struggle with is how much time do you give somebody that's, not going to cut it, right? You don't want to. It's a fine balance between doing your part, giving them enough training and investing in them to make them successful, and then also having the realization that they don't want to get it, aren't going to put in the effort to get it, and you need to maybe go different directions. So we're going to start doing a 1 week trial, and just telling them that up front in the interview. Basically,
yep.
We do a 1 week trial to make sure that this job is for you both ways. May not be for you, and you may not be for us, but we're going to do a 1 week trial. And at the end of the 1 week, we'll let you know if you've got a permanent position or not. Yep. But so we're going to start, we're going to start doing that, because I think that sets the tone. It's fair.
Whether they're buffalo or a cow.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think that goes back to interviewing on those values, and, literally going over your values in an interview. And this is who we are, and just going down the values, and, we're a team. It's teamwork. It's whatever it may be, but just going through it. And I think that'll scare a lot of people away that aren't wanting to be in an environment of accountability. And the people that do, your good people want that. Your good people want to be around other guys that are going to hold them accountable. Like I said, that you know the thoroughbreds want to be working with the
Absolutely.
thoroughbreds, and
It's so
and
true.
yep. And so and I think you can cut off half your problems in the interview process if you said it right. So that's actually one thing that I'm taking back over. Um, this is funny you brought this up. This all just kind of hit ahead in our L10 meeting this last week. Um, I've been having other people do the interviews probably for the last year and a half, and that's something that I decided that with this new brand that we're rolling out and everything like that, I'm going to take back over interviews to make sure that is being sold in the way that I want it to be sold from the get.
That's cool. What does your day to day look like now? You're at the office every day?
I do go in the office. Everything I do at the office, I can do from my house, but I go in because it's just
Be the
I think
cheerleader?
a presence, just being a presence there on a daily basis. But, I generally go in, I go work out in the mornings, and then I get to the office about 7:30, and then I'm usually up there, depending on if it's school year or summer, I'm usually up there till about 1:00, and then take off and do other stuff. Like I said, I worked hard to get people in places where the day to day doesn't depend on me. And me going back into interviews was a hard decision, because now I'm putting something back on me that now requires, but I feel so strongly that if that part's not done right, and I need to figure out how to do it right myself, so then I'll eventually train somebody else how to do it. But unless I can go in there and, because I'm not going to do it right the first week, it's a new, like really doing it, like really hiring off your interviews, and really, I mean, literally having, like, we have these like 4 foot by 3 foot huge framed out, with all of our company values and the Buffalo way and all that stuff. So that's going to be right there. We're going to go over all of them, and so I haven't actually been doing that. And so I need to go in there and test it out and see how, what a good, and then I need to write out an interview process based on, I need to go in and fine tune it. And then once I fine tune it and I can actually make it into a process that I can teach somebody to do, and I'm confident that they can do it that way, then I'll step back out of that. But
Yeah.
other than that, I've got myself out of the day today.
Yeah, I love that, dude. We're running out of time here, but I have a few quick questions for you to finish this up.
Yep.
First one is, what does Buffalo Outdoor look like in the next 5 years?
Buffalo, like revenue wise, or
what are you guys planning on doing? Like, you can go revenue, you can go offices, you can do whatever. What does your vision look like?
5 years, we want to be knocking on, the $8-10 million mark, between 8 and 10. And then, within 5 years, we're going to be adding a pool maintenance and service division. So I plan on that being a big part of our growth as well. And the main thing that I really want is, I just want the culture to be just in every part of the business. It's so, culture is one of those things. I think it's probably one of the hardest things to do. Marketing is, once you figure that out, you can kind of, figure out, if I spend this, I get this, and then the game is staff it, right? So, but culture is just one of those things that you have to live and breathe it. You have to be the example. You have to, like the guy Dan I was telling you about, he's like, people need to be rolling their eyes at you. If they're not, then you're not talking about it enough. Yeah, and they should just be like, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
So that's what I would love, is in 10 years that we are. It's just instant when somebody walks in the door or during their first week. It's almost like the management doesn't even have to fire people. that everybody else will. They'll just go, no, they're not a Buffalo.
For sure.
They got to go. They don't make the cut. It's like the team makes the decision. The coach doesn't have to, and that's where I see us. I see us going toward that, to where the team's so strong that, the coach just lets them in the door because they pass the interview, and then the team makes the call on whether or not they're going to be a fit.
Yeah, that's great. And I've said this on the podcast before too. Like, I've heard culture for years from Jonathan and Jason and John Caldwell, like all those guys. And
yeah,
and I heard it. And then but I missed the boat. Like, for the first 3 or 4 years they talked about it. Then it's like, aha, I get it now. So kind of like you had just that the moment of clarity, like, I get it, like some people just don't fit. The cows just don't fit. They just don't.
And it's real easy to lose it because the stress of the business gets to you. And like I said, getting the work done becomes the biggest priority. And as you get bigger, you get further removed away from, everybody.
Yep.
And it's easy to lose touch. And people, the guys are coming and going fast, during hard hiring times. And it's like, it's just real easy to lose touch. And so it really has to be, I think as you get to scale, those are your two responsibilities, culture, don't run out of money.
For sure.
That's it,
Yeah, I like that. Last question for you. It'd probably be a loaded question for you. But what are you most proud of?
Personally or in the business?
Let's go both.
Well, that my daughter would definitely be my family.
Saved your life.
I got my family. My wife was a rock star. She stood by me the entire time. When I was going through we're both going through stuff, and then on top of that, I was going through that, and then how it is starting a business. It's
relentless.
You're not always in the best of the mood.
No.
Best of the mood in a regular state of mind, but so I'm really proud of where our family's at now and how much stronger we are now, and the business kind of goes along with that because it's been a group effort the whole way there, and but yeah, I'm proud we were able to use that hard time as a
catalyst.
Catalyst, opportunity to learn, and so yeah, those are always hard questions for me, but I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
What about in the business?
Yeah, I think that the business, it's on. I always have a hard time looking back because I'm always looking
forward.
What's the next step?
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
it's you reflect a little bit.
Yeah, it's man. Yeah, I would say just when I can look back at that first year, sharpening blades in my garage and literally having, day by day, it was just like, faith alone was the only thing to get me by, because I had no idea. And I felt like what alternative do I have? I just got to keep grinding it out. And now I work myself into a way where I'm looking at, uptown problems on how big we're going to go. Are we going to franchise or break off? And so just looking at that journey and being able to, accomplish that, I'd say I'm proud of that for sure. Cool. And I hate saying because as you know, it's
team.
It's everybody that's helped me do it along the way. But the business is it's come a long way since then for sure.
Cool. Well, you told me yesterday this was your first podcast. You weren't sure how you're going to do. Well, you were fantastic, my friend.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't want to. I don't want to be your wink, wink.
No, it was great. So
good, man.
Again, we're running out of time, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship, and I can't wait to watch you grow in the next 5 years and watch you win.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the Pest Control Millionaire Podcast. If this was valuable to you, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a big difference for our growth. And if you do need any help growing your business, go ahead and check out pestcontrolmillionaire.com. We have lots of courses up there, from sales to operations. I have some courses there about producing short-form content. Plus, we have a mentorship program where you can get one-on-one business coaching from the Pest Control Millionaire himself. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.